I am Halli Casser-Jayne, and welcome to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, where along with my partner in politics, former White House correspondent Matthew Cooper, we slice and dice all things politics, and some days, Donald Trump, too. This week on the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, we are joined by Dr. Aaron Berkowitz, a true American hero. His inspiring story told in his new book, One by One by One, Making a Small Difference Amid a Billion Problems. A book filled with love and the possibilities of what we can all do when we put our hearts and minds together to do good things. But we begin with our weekly political review. It's Halli and Matt time. Here we go. Welcome, my friends. Here's where we are this week. There are more than 2,235,000 cases of COVID-19 in the United States, the largest amount of cases in any country worldwide. More than 120,000 dead, killing about 800 a day, and in 21 states, COVID-19 infections are surging. President Trump's response? COVID-19 is fading away. Yet, despite the surge, Trump is taking his MAGA show on the road off to Oklahoma, where they've actually asked him not to come for a MAGA rally. He's going anyway. Another 1.5 million have filed for unemployment claims. In case you hadn't heard it, former Trump NSA chief has written the tell-all, and it isn't pretty for Trump, who probably wants one person dead in the United States, and that's John Bolton. Not a good morning in America for Trump. How are you this morning, Mr. Matthew?
I'm fine, Halli. I can't complain. I'm hanging in there.
You're free too, right? You're free. You're roaming the world.
Yeah, I'm liberated.
For how long?
Yeah, I'm out of the apartment.
You're out of the apartment. I'm so happy. Talk to me. Not a good morning, huh?
Well, look, let's start with the coronavirus. As you said, it's, some very worrying signs, some spikes in a bunch of states, I believe, including yours, Florida. Mm-hmm. And, that's unsettling. We want to see these numbers going down, not new cases or new deaths. And so that's a real concern.
Can I ask you a question? Because I am in Florida, as everybody knows. And it is spiking. Daily, the cases are almost 2,000 every day now that they're finding. And at the height of all of this, when everything was shut down, Florida had nothing. So, it's actually here probably now, and it wasn't really here before that. When I speak to Floridians and my neighbors and everybody around me, they're hysterical and they're saying, what is wrong with this country that it's not looking at this for what it is? When you're out of a state like mine, which is part of this new surge, what does it look like to you? Do you think that people are overreacting? Does it look, no big deal? How does it look to you, Matt, from your vantage point, being free?
Well, free. Well, it's worrisome. I think we're just always learning new things about this virus. I think originally there's a lot of worry about picking it up from surfaces. Now that's, while possible, it still seems far less likely. We were worried about getting close to somebody, even outdoors. Now outdoors look safer. Being indoors for confined spaces for a while, that's more dangerous. So we're still learning a lot, and I think that makes it hard. That makes it worrisome because it's an uncertain thing you're dealing with. You haven't totally known how to stop it, and it's now clear masks are a big part of that. And people really need to wear them, and they're not wearing them so much.
No, they're really not wearing them so much. But here's where I'm just freaked out, and that's the fact that this has now become so politicized that there's no rationale in how the governors are dealing with it. So we're their guinea pigs. They don't care if we die. They don't care if we die. I'm going to give you something interesting. It was at May when they shut everything down. Right before that, you would hear sirens. I would hear sirens all the time. Every few minutes there was a siren. That stopped. Not only is that back, but yesterday on Good Morning, on Joe Scarborough, and I can't remember the doctor's name, he said he was talking about Port St. Lucie, Florida. we don't know this here. It's not in any papers. But he says the hospital, which is, the Cleveland Clinic is completely overwhelmed. It's at max in Port St. Lucie.
Cleveland Clinic in Port St. Lucie.
Yes. We're a bedroom community of Palm Beach, and we've got a huge hospital here. That's Cleveland Clinic. The Cleveland Clinic is buying a lot of the hospitals around here, and it's complete. So I learn on national television that our hospital here, which is a great hospital, by the way, is completely jammed with patients. But I got to find it everywhere online, on newspapers. And I told you the Tampa Bay Times, Miami Herald, Sun Sentinel. I don't want to miss any of my great papers around here. Papers are doing a great job here. That story's not in the papers. So there's a cover-up going on in Florida, which we all knew. That woman, by the way, who was fired here for putting that website together that Dr. Burks, said was such a wonderful website. She's now opened up her own website where she's putting the true numbers of cases in there. Obviously far greater than the amount that Governor DeSantis, I call him, is putting out there. In other words, what I'm saying to you is across America, do we really know what the hell is going on? Because in the Republican states where a lot of these surges are starting to happen, they ain't telling us the truth. They're just not. It's worrisome. It's worrisome.
Yeah, well, you would know better than I about Florida. I mean, I think I am in the Northeast. It's,
You're on the back end of it now, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's as much concern about the numbers getting fudged, at least that I've heard of.
But you have Democratic governors, too. That's the difference.
You got sort of normal Republican ones, too. Baker in Massachusetts.
Yeah, right. So anyway, I think that's something we have to bring into this conversation, because I don't know that we all know really what the hell is going on here. Another point of fact, Sheriff Mark Lamb, do you know who he is? From Arizona, one of those wacko Arizona sheriff types who said, I am not going to restrict any of this. I don't care what the state mandates or the county's mandate. And this morning he announced he is positive for coronavirus. Yeah. And then you say, what's with these people? Because they keep going, well, it doesn't matter to me. Okay, the world's gone mad. At least the United States has gone mad.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I don't think we know yet if we're going to have a protest spike.
Yeah, that's another word. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Close proximity from that, or what a Trump rally will do for spreading.
Yeah, and it takes quite much longer than I think they thought. By the way, do you know the story about Pence getting on the phone with the governors and outright lying and asking them to outright lie?
I don't think I know that one. How did I miss that one?
I have no idea. He gets on a phone call to the governors, and somebody leaks the phone call, and he says, make sure that you tell this in a certain way, and, just downplay everything, and it's no big deal. And of course, some Democrat must have been the one who leaked the call, but there it was, trending on Twitter, Pence lies. I don't get it. I don't understand why things are so crazy right now. You can't trust the president and vice president of the United States to tell the truth about people dying. It's nuts. Sorry.
No, it's
yeah.
Well, wear your mask. Are you wearing a mask, Hallie, when you go out?
Darling, I'm wearing a mask, but I'm going to tell you what, people are not wearing a mask. And I was just talking to a friend about, because this happened to me the other day, because somebody was not only not wearing, a woman, older, 60s, 70s, attractive, beautiful, young, 60, 70, wasn't wearing a mask. And she comes right up to me on the line at the supermarket. I mean, was like right there, breathing down my neck. And I turned to her and with my mask, and I said, could you please move away? This older woman, well-dressed, puts her middle finger up to me.
She gives you the finger.
She gave me the finger because I
right in front of you.
Right. Yeah, right. I have to say, it was at Aldi's, my favorite. I love Aldi's. And the manager happened to have been right there. And the manager asked her to leave the store. And actually, they were not letting people in the store. This was Sunday. They were holding us back because there were too many in the store. So I thought that was great, because that was the first time I've run across that in months. They were doing that back in the day, but here we are. Yeah, no, gave me my finger. And my friend was telling me she had the same experience. It is weird, though, with these masks.
They're people, right? They're very defiant about it. There's a lot of videos going around of people saying, I'm not going to wear them.
Here's the thing. You can't see what people, when the mouth is covered up and all you can see, and I wear glasses too, but sunglasses all the time because I have blue eyes and my eyes can't handle the sun down here. But it's interesting to me that you can't always tell where people are coming from because you don't see the expression on their face, which makes it kind of weird with everybody, those who do wear the mask. Yeah, I never hear anybody talk about it. Just to stay on the subject for one more minute, Beijing has shut down again a lot of the city because they're having a surge, which Trump, of course, isn't allowing the governors to do, which I find very interesting because what's he going to say now? It's the Florida virus when it spreads again. Beijing got smart.
Yeah, well, I don't have too many compliments for Beijing after having unleashed this bat fever on the world.
I think that's the first time I've heard somebody call bat fever, but bat fever it is. Yeah, but here they are. They learned and they're just shutting it down. We're not. We're just going to let this thing kill us. We're all, Trump.
They want to shut down. They shut down.
Well, that's interesting, right? If you just shut down Florida for a couple of weeks, that would be the end of it. We've learned that, and you saw what happened in New York. They were able to contain it. So anyway, when's it going to really spike? That's the thing. One more thing on the subject. U.S. stockpile struck with 63 million doses of the hydroxychloroquine drug. Thank you, Mr. Trump.
Right. This is the drug the president touted, but now his own FDA is saying,
not only dangerous. Dangerous. Do not take it. Do not take it.
Yeah, do not treat your COVID with this thing.
But it does look like there's something on the horizon that may be working. Britain, I think, has come up with an anti-inflammatory.
Something that'll lower your chances of death if you get this.
Yeah, well, that would be lovely if that turned out to be true.
Well, that would help. I mean, a vaccine would be the best.
Of course. That's not going to happen.
We'd rather not get it at all. But yeah, if we get it, we'd like to have something more than aspirin and a ventilator.
At least that. So a friend of mine, not a close friend, but somebody who I know died from coronavirus here in Florida. And you just shake your head and go, he didn't have to go so soon. Didn't have to go so soon. And it's my understanding from his family that it is a horrid, horrid death. So
yeah, it sounds terrible.
It sounds like
your lungs, breathing. You can't be around anyone.
And those who have survived, who were relatively young, are talking about they've got heart disease now that they didn't have. Their hearts are permanently damaged. Their lungs are permanently damaged. I mean, it's like we're not getting. Remember we talked about this way back when on the show, Matt, about this is like, whitewashed because they're not letting us see hospitals and we're not talking to people who've survived it and yada, yada, yada. Let's not underestimate this thing. We move on. The room where it happened. John Bolton. Boy, this is an interesting story as a journalist to cover because don't you, this guy did a terrible thing. He could have had Trump impeached. And can I make this point before we really talk about this? Had John Bolton talked and not gone for the money during the impeachment hearing, Trump probably would not be president and 120,000 people would not have died. That's my thought. This is a horrid man, this John Bolton. And now he's going to be the poster boy for the left because tell us what he's been saying. His book sounds like it's a doozy.
Doozy? I haven't heard that word in a whole while.
I told you, too many chocolate chip cookies last night.
Oh my God. Halli.
This is your fault.
Hard stuff.
Boy. Yeah.
Well,
so he comes out with this book. You want me to?
He comes out with this book, and he's like, Trump is it's even worse than you thought. He's telling the Chinese, I love what you're doing with these concentration camps for the Uyghurs. He's willing to change policy for his own political benefits. Ukraine's just the beginning of it.
You know what Trump has become? Trump has become a quid pro. Exactly.
Good call. A quid pro. So So it's a damning. Now, to go back to what you said, I'm not as sure that if he testified, this would have led any Republican senators to flip.
No, I understand that. Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I just want to put that out there. I absolutely agree that this would not have changed the Republicans' vote because they were hell-bent on keeping them in. But the fact of the matter is, I'm just saying, possibly, this is a way.
Definitely, look, I mean, if you think you are a witness to this kind of stuff and you don't speak out until you get paid for it, and on the schedule of your book, as opposed to the country needing to know, it's incredibly selfish and unbelievable and awful. And
Andrea Mitchell said something yesterday I thought was I wanted to talk to you about. She said the reason that he didn't want to do it then was because if he was to have a future in the Republican Party, right. At the time of now, you tell me what Republican's going to want to touch him at this point.
Yeah, he's
bullshit.
In his 70s. He's just a policy guy. He doesn't really have a future in the Republican Party. I mean, he can in sort of the talk circuit to some degree, but he's.
I think he's a horrid human being.
Have a future in this party unless things really change, and and anyway, it shouldn't be about your own personal convenience.
Well, that too.
It's a question of like, look, yes, it's going to hurt you, but if you have any courage, you're gonna speak out with some, personal sacrifice instead of waiting for your, Simon Schuster to put out your book. And I'm glad these, what he has to say is out there. I still hope people don't buy it.
I'm conflicted about it. Anthony Scaramucci said something I thought really interesting this morning, which was he actually played this smart because at the time the Republicans were not going to oust Trump at the impeachment hearings. But what he's done now is he's put the book out at such a time that it actually will influence the election so that maybe some people, that it'll bring his numbers down into the low 30s. That's Scaramucci's theory on the subject. I don't know if that's true. I think it's a little early. I think if he brought it out, after Labor Day, it probably would have had more of and because people are going to forget. We've got a short-term memory problem here.
What's his goal here? It's not even really to defeat Trump. It's to it's for him. It's just for maximum sales and adoration of him. And I don't know.
Talk to me about Bolton. I mean, Bolton was a right-wing wacko. I mean, he's as far right on foreign policy as anybody's ever.
Was a super hawk who in the just run afoul of Republicans for a long time. He had a lot of fighting with Condi Rice and Powell and folks in the George W. Bush administration and way back in the Reagan era. And he's a super hawk. He can't wait to start the bombing everywhere. Started his political career as an intern for Spiro Agnew. Worked for Jesse Helms. And
oh my God!
He's a lovely guy. And he's personally, he's all elbows.
So the thing becomes, in your opinion, does this book do anything other than put a couple $1 million or more into his pocket? Does it really have? I mean, other than people like you and I, and all our Twitter crazies, who are totally politics all day, whatever. Does it make an impact?
I don't know if it will, Hallie. I mean, I think he's, there's so much information coming into voters, so much stuff changing all the time, and so much that's already kind of known about Trump being a nut job that I don't know if having this book come out in June of an election year is enough to really move anything. Yeah. My guess is that it isn't.
Yeah, the whole story of Bolton fascinates me, and it's really, in my opinion, something that you have to look at in terms of what the Republican Party is about now. I mean, there becomes the question that if Trump is out of office in November, what happens to the Republican Party? Right?
Well, I think that'll be the question. I wouldn't, I don't think it's going to reset to being like John Boehner's party or being, Mitt Romney's party or George W. Bush's party. I think Trumpism will probably survive Trump.
Yeah, but it'll go someplace weird. It's not going to be on the front pages of the New York Times anymore. It's going to go off to OAN and a kind of a fringe element kind of thing. But you're not going to. I mean, not even if the Dems win both houses, those Trumpsters are going to still be there within the, the Senate and the House. And so it's kind of an odd deal. I don't know how this morphs, but I think people should be thinking about it because they need to be prepared for how they're going to deal with it, and how you completely take it out. That's
I don't think it's going because I just don't think I think it's
You think this is the Republicans as the Republicans are going to be, and that's going to be the end of that?
No, I mean, I don't think entirely, but I think it's, it depends on the degree of repudiation if he loses. I mean, super landslide against him, it'll
So what happens to the folks, though? What happens to, they started as the Tea Party, and then they became, what was the new name for them? In the House, the Republicans.
The Freedom Caucus.
The Freedom Caucus. I mean, what do they become next? They're there.
Yeah, I don't, right. They're not, I mean.
Yeah, they're there.
A bunch of them will probably lose, I mean, if Trump goes, a bunch of them will go, too.
I don't know. It's worrisome. It's worrisome. I don't know what happens to this country. I don't know, how in our lifetime is it going to recover from this? That becomes the operative question. I'm not sure. I want to go to election 2020, but I want to begin.
Election 2020.
I want to begin with this, though. I mean, let's just talk for a minute about the fact that Trump is going to Oklahoma, much to the chagrin of the people who are running the health and safety aspects of the state, who have begged him not to come, and he says no. In fact, this morning I read not only is he coming, but he's going to go all out, and he wants to do it as a test, thing to see how, what kind of response he's going to get, this, that, and the other thing. I mean, this is dangerous stuff. Let's call it what it is. He's playing guinea pig 100%. And right now it's in an arena. They may move it outside. I've heard. I don't know how they do that this quickly. But this is crazy that anybody would go. Hallie's voice went up 12 octaves.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a political statement for them to go like that. We're not going to be told what to do by these darn scientists and liberals. We're going to shout. We're not going to wear masks.
So are these people crazy or what? Can we just define that anybody who would put their life, and by the way, not that just their lives, but their parents and their grandparents and their children's lives in harm's way? Okay, have we crossed the line into these people are by definition crazy?
I can't answer that, but I mean it's reckless, and I don't think it was great that the protesters got so brushed up against each other either.
No, I am with you on that, by the way. 100%.
I mean, the virus doesn't care why you're next to each other.
No, and I'm glad you brought that. Yeah, you brought that up. Let's just for a minute go down that rat hole for a second, because there's something in that we need to talk about, and I've been meaning to talk to you about that. When I hear Dem operatives say, "Well, this was because this was okay," some doctors, the same doctors they're using to talk about coronavirus, to talk against Trump on his handling of it, had said, "Oh, but this is okay because this is, justice." No, it wasn't okay, in my opinion.
No, it was not okay. I mean, look, outdoors is a lot better than indoors. So,
Well, it's in Florida, it's turning out not to be true.
Right. But it's not good. I mean,
well,
especially if you're not wearing a mask.
Yeah, well, the spikes in Florida, are with the opening up and this is an outside state. I spend most of my days sitting by my pool doing my work. I mean, we don't live indoors in Florida, even as hot as it gets. But yeah, I just had to make that point. You can't, it's not, you stop justifying the unjustifiable, What happened to George Floyd was horrid, and what's happening, all across that's being, shown to the world right now in terms of police brutality to, African Americans. Oh, we're with you, my friends, but you can't be irresponsible in all of this in the middle of a pandemic.
I mean, science.
Yeah.
Look, we know what's going to keep you safer.
Right. Okay. Back to election 2020.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So Joe Biden, even in Iowa, was only down by 1, which is, a tie. Huge numbers from 14% ahead to 8% ahead. Oh, 8 points ahead. What's going on here? You buying this? Joe Biden, by the way, who? Because he's not making a whole lot of appearances. Yeah.
Right. Well, he's off camera, so to speak. And, so right now the race is really about Trump. And, because of all these things, Trump's not that popular. He was never super popular, but now he's less popular. And the Trump people are counting on being able to make the race about Biden and scuff up Biden enough that they can eke out a win. But that's, I don't know if they're going to get there by talking about Hunter Biden.
No, they cleaned that up. Yeah, no.
Or calling him Sleepy Joe.
No, well, not after the president
Trump
couldn't walk down the stairs or a ramp.
Yeah, that's not,
They don't have a lot on Biden.
They don't have a shtick that's really working yet. Now, look, it's going to tighten up. It's not. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. You never know. If it is a blowout, it's going to be a blowout for Biden, not a blowout for Trump. But
you know how Trump talks about the silent majority and how there was apparently a silent majority in 2016 to some degree. Not as much as everybody wants to say, because the polls nationally were pretty tight, and the fact of the matter is that Trump only won this election by points in a handful of states. That could have been fixed for all we know, because it was that tight and what have you. But the fact of the matter is that I don't know that that these 8 to 14 points, Matt, don't measure up with that 38 to 40 something % that Trump is still holding on to. There's a disconnect.
Yeah, well, a national poll is screwy because, Biden runs up the numbers in California or wherever, and that distorts the whole thing. But look, a lot of places are... Look, what the Trumpies are thinking about where they're spending their money.
Right.
And they're spending their money trying to hold the states they have. They're not, pushing onto new battlegrounds. They're not doing big buys in New Hampshire and other places. They lost narrowly. So that tells you they're worried.
Senate. So this morning, Cook called the Montana race with my friend Steve a toss-up. Huge amounts of money going into that state.
Right. Huge.
I mean, whoa. Is a toss-up good, or should Steve be more ahead? With Cook, you don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's encouraging. Look, it's going to be a tight race. Bullock's an attractive candidate. He's popular.
He won by much in a Trump state.
Yeah, I mean, look, on the other hand, Trump's likely carrying the state by a lot. So, that can pull Daines, the incumbent, over the finish line. Well, we'll see. A toss-up sounds like the right way to see it.
Okay. I needed your input because, I'm sitting here going.
Well, I know when you and Steve were, it's about Steve. You're not telling yourself.
Oh, my God. I want this race just to get a little bit further so we can call him and get him on the show. It's still too soon.
Well, I hear you.
Oh, my God. Oh, to talk to Mr. Bullock. All right. Trump, police plan. Everybody working on this plan to try and talk to me. Oh, boy.
Well, yeah, Trump has his own little police reform plan, and, it's very modest in its ambitions in terms of offering some incentives to police departments to cooperate. To follow best practices and things like that. It's not much of a bludgeon,
It's punting.
It's
a punt.
punting.
Yeah. I'll let you carry it.
Look, I don't know if Washington has a lot of tools to really, it is a diffuse system we have, and I don't know if you can fix the Podunk Police Department from Washington. The mayor of Podunk has a lot more power in that respect.
Yeah. I don't think we know how this is going to actually play out. I mean, people are ticked off. We've been here before. A week ago, I might have said this is encouraging. There may be some real movement in it. It's already starting to, trickle off the radar. And does everything to return to where it was? Some gains. I don't know. I don't think it's easy to kill a black man and shoot him in the back anymore. Rayshard Brooks, but things don't get done the way they used to get done because they don't maintain the focus for very long anymore. Instead, we're talking about Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben's rice and conquistador statues.
Yeah, well, these symbols, they're just, No, they have the least impact on people's lives, but they get kind of the most fired up. And I guess that's not totally surprising.
Can I just say one thing about Aunt Jemima? I was looking at that, which, by the way, that is not the original Aunt Jemima packaging. I actually have some stuff that was my mom's, that she had from back when. I think it was Aunt Jemima was a great cook. That was the whole purpose. I mean, they're taking things and I don't know. I think this has gone over the top. Don't shoot me, folks. I just do.
Well,
and I don't think we should, quote unquote, whitewash history. And I just also think, I grew up, I'm going to be honest. I had, quote unquote, an Aunt Jemima. I always say I was raised by a black woman, Elsie, may she rest in peace, who came the day that I was born and stayed with me to the day she died. She was the most wonderful woman ever. What a story. I have to tell you about Elsie one day. But the fact of the matter is, she was independent. She was a hardworking woman. She raised her single son, took care of her family back, in Portsmouth, Virginia, worked like, a demon. But some might call her an Aunt Jemima, and she wasn't. She taught me how to cook. And I'm a pretty damn good cook, by the way. She taught my mom how to cook. There are some parts of, The Help was a great book. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. There were some powerful women back in the day. They did it on their terms. Just thought I'd go there.
Right. And that, I understand what you're saying. I think that said, look, this is ultimately it's sufficient. It's up to PepsiCo and Quaker Oats.
Sure. They're playing wrestling. Yeah.
They've been wrestling with this for a long time, hence all the makeovers.
The original image, right.
Sometimes these things, certainly from a business standpoint, they become, counterproductive. And, this has gone on a while. So, I think in some ways it was kind of inevitable, even if this hadn't happened. And,
I guess I just want to say that just be careful what you throw away.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I can see also where, I can see where people would, find it.
You can find anything, but you can find anything offensive. That's my theory.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think in
other words, you don't have to look at it as offensive. You can look at it as something else that was really more powerful. That's my point. Because it depends how you look at it. That's a decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, I agree. And I think that is fair. But,
I know it's complex.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah. I'm not trying to be nostalgic either because I really thought about this.
I
yeah.
understand what you're saying.
Yeah. I'm just simply saying, I know that Elsie, if she had something to say about this, she would not be on the side of wipe that image away. It was part of her history. Did I miss anything here as we get to close?
No, I think we covered a lot of ground. I mean, we did, I mean, it's just, you can't discriminate against gay and transgender people.
No, that's a good thing.
In the workplace.
That's a good thing.
That was a big change since the last we talked, and more decisions coming. So we'll see. Every week's an adventure with you.
Every week's an adventure with you. Let me close on this because there was a bit of history made yesterday. Gene Kennedy Smith, the last surviving sibling of JFK, died yesterday at the age of 92. For those of us who lived through all of that, Camelot, which we could certainly use today, it really is the end of an era. And she was the first ambassador to Ireland? First woman ambassador, I think? She in her own right.
I don't think she was the first woman, but she was appointed ambassador for first kind of public, political job.
Yeah.
Even she'd been involved in politics at 65, and she turned out to have an important role in the peace agreement.
Right. So let's get nostalgic now. Oh, for a little Camelot. That's where we leave this week, folks. By the way, if there is a big decision coming down from the Supreme Court today, Matt and I will do a pickup and we'll add it to the show. I also want to tell you all that next week, please come and listen we have a remarkable guest, a woman from Guatemala, her name is Rosie, who was locked up in one of Trump's cages, and her story is riveting, and she will be on the show next week. This is a real get for us because these people have not been talking for fear of, being thrown out of the country at this point. So look forward to that. Matt, you are an adventure too. Thank you.
You are too. See you next time.
Bye-bye. You are listening to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts weekly at hallicasserjayne.com and is available wherever you listen to your podcasts. Be sure to find us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and on all your favorite apps. You can find the Halli Casser-Jayne Show on your Alexa device too. Just say, the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. Oh, and come play with me on Twitter at the Halli CJ Show. I'm going to tell you a story. It's an important story. It's a powerful story. But most importantly, in these wretched times in which we find ourselves, it's an inspiring story. It begins here. One, Dr. Aaron Berkowitz, has just finished his medical training when he is sent to Haiti on his first assignment with Partners in Health, a global health organization bringing quality health care to the most vulnerable around the world. In Haiti, Dr. Berkowitz meets Janelle, a 23-year-old man with the largest brain tumor Berkowitz or any of his neurosurgeon colleagues at Harvard Medical School have ever seen. Determined to live up to Partners in Health's mission statement, Berkowitz sets out to save Janelle's life by bringing him back to Boston for a 12-hour brain surgery. And that's just the beginning. The whole story told by Dr. Berkowitz in his inspiring new book, One by One by One, Making a Small Difference Amid a Billion Problems. Let's talk with Dr. Aaron Berkowitz. Hi, Aaron. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you so much for being here. It's really a pleasure to have a chance to speak with you. I'm going to talk real quick because I got a lot to get to in very little time. Let's start here. Medicine. You're a neurologist, right? What you always wanted to do? Lend your support to the needy in developing countries. What inspired the boy to become the man who became the globe-trotting doctor who saves the world? We love you here.
Thank you so much. I think I was one of those kids that wanted to be a doctor when I grew up. It's hard to pinpoint the moment, but I do remember a children's story my father used to read to me. We had a series of books about real-life heroes, and the one I loved the most was a book about Louis Pasteur and how he helped a young boy who had developed rabies after a dog bite get the first vaccine and be cured. And I have a vivid memory of, as a child, finding the picture of the dog biting the boy very scary, but also this amazing image of Louis Pasteur in this big top hat and showing the boy this syringe, and inside the syringe was this army of vaccine that was going to go and fight the rabies virus. And I don't know, maybe that's what started it all, but I remember always asking to be read that story by my dad growing up.
I love that, and I'll bet you there are a lot of little girls and boys all over the world who would be doing the same thing. I've just been watching Doc Martin. I don't know if you've ever seen the series. It just opens the eye to who you people are who are in medicine. So you're after school, you're offered this assignment in Haiti with Partners in Health, and off you go to Haiti. Can anybody ever be prepared for the kind of poverty too often met in third world countries?
No, to give you a short answer. I had done some work in Malawi, another very poor country, but to get to Malawi from Boston took almost 2 days. So although it's devastating to see the reality of behind these statistics of people living on less than $1 a day or people not knowing where their next meal will come from, when you've journeyed a long way, it still doesn't sit right with you, but there's maybe some sense to it that I'm in a different part of the world. Haiti, just an hour and a half flight from Miami. And from Boston, it was just 4 hours. So this is a short day trip. And I eat breakfast in the airport in Boston. And by the afternoon, I'm in the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. And there's something that makes it that much more jarring to be in a place where half of the population lives on less than $2 a day, and yet be that close to the United States, where, of course, there are inequities and injustices here as well. But the gap in terms of resources is so striking when you can move between those worlds so rapidly, and they're so close together geographically, but so far apart in so many other ways.
I'm like you. I've spent a lot of time in third world countries, and I'm always startled by two things. One is the abject poverty and the illness that you run across. We'll talk about that more in a minute. But there's also something about the soul of these people that's very different than in the Western world, the developed nations, if you will. And I wonder if you feel the same way, that you came across something that's, I don't know, no money, ill health, and great soul. Makes you want to save people.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. You know, when we read about Haiti in the newspaper, hear about it on the news, it's almost always followed by the phrase, the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, and then followed by still recovering from a devastating earthquake in 2010. Now, both of those are true, but as you said, they don't capture the humanity and the complexity and the beauty of a people with a unique history. You know, Haiti was one of the places Columbus landed on that famous 1492 voyage. It was inhabited by a native people who unfortunately come to slavery, starvation, slaughter, smallpox, the usual from the conquistadors, and then becomes the richest colony when the French take it over, generating more revenue than 13 U.S. colonies combined. And this was on the backs, unfortunately, of slaves imported from West Africa. And those slaves rose up and defeated Napoleon's army to have the first and only ever successful slave revolt that led to a free nation governed by individuals who were former slaves. That's never happened again in history. And this is an incredible revolutionary history, and the history people are both proud of, but also facing the challenging reality of the present. And as I'm sure we'll talk about it on the medical side, you know, seeing patients there with just devastating illnesses and the disability that arises from those, but suffering not only with the illness, but in the devastating poverty there. And yet, as you said, you know, I met people with incredible hope, incredible faith, incredible courage, describing their conditions with inspiring proverbs. And, you know, that's why I wanted to write this book and tell these stories, to really give voice to people who are often voiceless, to put a face to problems that are often faceless when we talk about injustice and inequity and lack of access to healthcare and millions and billions of people in the world. We forget that these are individuals. And I learned so much from these patients and the process of being part of their care, and was inspired so much by them and wanted to share their stories.
And you do it very, very well. Tell us about your meeting with Dr. First Martineau and Janelle, and what you saw when you first met Janelle and his medical condition.
Yeah, so I had just finished my medical training as a neurologist and, you know, volunteered to work with Partners in Health, this organization that works to try to improve healthcare throughout the world in some of the poorest parts of the world. And when I arrived in Haiti, at that time, there was just one neurologist for the entire population of 10 million people. And so many patients with neurologic disease had not gotten any care. And Dr. Martineau, a very talented Haitian physician, saw that this patient needed a neurologist and introduced me to the patient, Janelle, a young man who by that point couldn't walk, could barely even talk, and had the largest brain tumor myself or any of my colleagues had ever seen. And so here I was, you know, a brand new doctor, trying to live up to the inspiring mission statement of global health, of Partners in Health, and wanting to help this patient and make what I hoped could be the first big save of my career. And so my colleagues and I worked to bring Janelle to Boston for the complicated brain surgery that he needs. And without giving too much of the story away, this book is really about all the twists and turns, the triumphs, but also some of the tragedies and all the confusing spaces in between when a doctor like me from one of the world's richest countries tries to help a patient from one of the world's poorest.
Two things here. I don't think people understand just what it takes to pull off a humanitarian effort like this. Putting the pieces of the puzzle together so that you can get him the treatment he needs, get him where he needs to go, get the finances, get the housing, get the this, get the that. People just don't get it. It's an enormous effort. I know we tried. We did it. I did it with somebody in Uganda. Oh my God. But God bless you. I mean, can you just give us a little bit about what you're really up against to help somebody like this?
Yeah, I'm glad you drew attention to that aspect, because we certainly hear stories like this, and they're sort of conveyed as a hero's tale where someone waved a magic wand and you know, an injustice was righted, and as you said, this is a lot of hard work and required a huge team. There's a Haitian proverb, many Haitian proverbs that I love, but one of them is "Main en pile chai palu," which is many hands working together make the load lighter. And this was certainly a heavy load. The medical care was one part of it, but finding the funds was certainly part of it. Finding places where Janelle could stay in Boston with folks who could speak Haitian Creole and understand him when he was recovering. And one of the stories I tell in detail in the book is that, well, to get Janelle a medical visa to come to the United States, he would need a passport. But to get a passport, you need a birth certificate. And Janelle was so poor that he had just been born at home on the dirt floor of a hut with no birth certificate. And my colleague, Dr. Martineau in Haiti, I remember him saying he's so poor to the eyes of the government, he doesn't even exist. He's never even been born. And so one of the stories I tell is the incredible story of Dr. Martineau, a Haitian doctor I worked with, trying to figure out how to get Janelle a passport. So again, as you said, it's the details and the efforts of so many contributing in so many different ways to try to help this one person.
It's extraordinary to me how you guys get this done. The victims are the brave. Really, they're saviors forced to meet so many aspects of themselves that they might otherwise not have. You can't save the world no matter how hard you try, Doctor. What do you measure as success and failure, and when do the twain meet?
That's a question we wrestle with every day in medicine. You're right, we can't necessarily as individuals change the whole system, but the system itself is made of individuals, and so we can each do our small part. And, one of the lessons I learned as a young idealistic doctor trying to do the best I can is how success and failure in medicine are really never as sharply defined as we may think. And, each patient may think of successful treatment for them in a very different way than the next patient. And I think one of our challenges, but also one of the beautiful aspects of practicing medicine is we get to really meet people at a unique and challenging point in their lives and have the opportunity to learn from them. What do they want? What is helpful to them? What are they looking for? What does success mean to them? So we can help them achieve those goals. And they truly are in many cases different for everyone.
It's extraordinary to me. I told you I've spent a lot of time in developing nations, and you see so many horrors, and you want to help everyone. You can't. But my question is how? This irritates me so much. How can it be that in the 21st century, so many suffer due to lack of medical care and poverty? And how do you recognize that reality in your heart, in your doctor's mind, in the mind that medicine's a business, besides being the savior? I mean, that's hard for me in some of the situations I've had myself in. I'm curious as to what you think.
Yeah.
And give me just a second of that, because I still got more to go.
Well, this is something we wrestled with when I talked to colleagues and said we want to bring Janelle to the United States, get him the brain surgery he needs. They said, that's not cost effective. That'll be hundreds of thousands of dollars for one patient. That money could be used to build a whole new hospital. They said it's not sustainable. You might be able to help this patient, but then another patient will come with a brain tumor and you won't be able to help them. So, this is bigger than one patient. This is bigger than one doctor. Just, in other words, it sounded like just turning a blind eye to someone's bad luck. And yet I know I can't, as you said, fix the whole of global poverty and access to health care. And yet I think we can each do our parts with what we have. And those of us, with the privilege and power to be in the half of the world that has health care versus the half of the world that doesn't, we can use what we learned if we're in the medical profession, or we can use our voices or our wallets from other professions to try to advocate for patients, to advocate for health as a human right, and to try to work together to make the system better.
You also find yourself coming up against other cultures which might clash with the belief systems that we have. I mean, in Haiti, for instance, they practice voodoo. I know we couldn't get AIDS patients treatment in Uganda, partly because if the woman had it, no, don't mess with the woman. Don't mess with the mother. That's just in their culture, you save men. But I'm curious as to for you, how do you say to yourself, sometimes maybe it is better just to leave well enough alone, which is a tough thing to ask a doctor?
Certainly there were many that advised me to leave well enough alone. And I think for me, I didn't feel it was well enough. And, people say, well, there are limited resources. And Yet this is a time, as one of my mentors and one of the leaders in global health, Paul Farmer, often says, that's not true. This is a time in human history when there are more resources than ever before. They're just not equitably distributed. And so people say there are limited resources. What they're really saying is there are limited resources for the poor and infinite resources for the rest of us. So I think we need to, be willing to have those difficult conversations and debates and realize that, some of these things we just accept as fact, that there are limited resources. There are, as we've said, infinite resources or close to it. They're just not always in the places that need them. And how can we find a way to make things more equitable?
Let's bring it home for a second. Poverty, inequity, and injustice exist not just in third world countries. Here we are in the U.S. COVID-19 pandemic has revealed enormous healthcare disparities and outcomes right here at home in the U.S. 114,000 dead, I think, as of this morning, and disproportionately people of color, the poor, the aged. How are you feeling about that and our distribution of medicine in the U.S.?
You're right that COVID has certainly, as you said, exposed these inequities. It has not created them, and these are inequities that were there, and COVID-19 has just exposed them. As you said, those communities who have suffered racist injustice, those communities of people who are disabled or who don't have the money to afford health care. It's not just that this is a bad virus, and it is a bad virus. It's that many were not healthy to begin with, and that makes them more susceptible, or they're not able to have the luxury of working from home and had to keep working and exposing themselves. And so, this is a time of reckoning with inequities that have long been called out in principle, but now people are seeing the reality, and we hope that will lead to change. One of my colleagues, Dr. Michelle Morse, who I talk about in the book, who taught me so much about fighting for global health equity and for justice and against racism and really understanding the effects of these societal forces and how they affect people's health. I asked her how she's feeling about everything that's going on right now, and she said, I'm terrified but hopeful. And I've been quoting that a lot lately and trying to remember it, because we can be terrified, but terror can make us run away. But terror can also inspire us to fight against what's making us feel terrified. And to do that, we need hope. And so I think holding those two realities together at the same time, to be terrified but hopeful, is a very inspiring message. And I told her first book should be titled Terrified but Hopeful. And I've been quoting that phrase a lot lately. And I think I share that sentiment. I'm terrified, but also see an incredible movement around justice, unlike anything I've certainly seen in my lifetime, and hope that this is the moment that's the beginning of real change.
You quote a great Haitian Creole proverb, tout le monde, c'est monde. Every person is a person. I think we all forget that from time to time, and we need to remember that. Tell us this. So much to do, so many important aspects to this story. Everybody read this book. It's called Just the One, right? One story. Yours, too. You go out there. You try to save the world. There aren't enough of you. Where do people go to help? Can you send us to a website where we can maybe get some contributions, people volunteering, what, Partners in Health?
Oh, thank you. Yes. So the organization I worked with to do this work is Partners in Health, who, as I said, they're involved in some of the world's poorest countries, and they're also now taking the experience they learned from fighting Ebola in West Africa to the United States, and working in Boston and elsewhere with the techniques they learned from tracking and tracing infectious disease to try to help in the fight against COVID. Their website is just their initial, TIH.org, another organization doing great work. Doctors Without Borders, MSF.org, are two organizations I've been very fortunate to work with and learn from, and who are doing extraordinary work all over the world and can always use more support in their ongoing fights for equity and justice. Tout le monde,
c'est monde. Every person is a person. Some people are heroes. Doctor, you are one of my heroes. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, Halli.
My pleasure. Bye-bye. I've been speaking with Dr. Aaron Berkowitz. For more information on Dr. Berkowitz, his work with Partners in Health and Doctors Without Borders, visit Partners in Health at PIH.org. Thank you for tuning in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, a production of Resec LLC. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, and is available at hallicasserjayne.com and on all your favorite apps. Be sure to visit us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and follow me on Twitter at The Halli CJ Show. Until next time, this is Halli Casser-Jayne.